Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, starring Mel Gibson and Tina Turner, directed by George Miller and George Ogilvy, something like that. Forgive me if I said the name wrong. Now, before I get into this, I have seen this once, and I remember Tina Turner being the weakest thing about the movie, and I remember this in general being the weakest. So we'll see if that still remains the case. Let's get into this movie. After the opening credits roll with a Tina Turner song called One of the Living playing in the background, and we start off in a desert in Australia as a man named Jedediah with his son Jedediah Jr. flying a plane and knocking off one of the riders while the other takes off a mask with a monkey. And who was the one being knocked off? Mad Max, returned by Mel Gibson, with some very long hair as he walks in the desert for days until he finds some people going to Bartertown and walks in with them. And Max gets inside Bartertown as he's looking for the man he was riding with along with the camels and trades 24 hours of his life in Bartertown after he explains what he's looking for with the collector. And he sees Aunt Entity, something like that. Forgive me if I said that wrong. I'm going to keep messing this up throughout the show. Played by Tina Turner. And Entity learns about Max and she accepts his service as she knocks down her bodyguards. And the cinematography does look good, and I like following Max on his adventure. But at the same time, Tina Turner isn't very good in this movie, despite she has a couple of songs in this movie. And I like the end song better than the beginning song, but her performance in this movie was pretty bad and sometimes mockable. While the choreography is a little funny in a strange way, Entity shows Max her underworld as they, along with Iron Bar, see a little man called the Master, along with his monster, the Blaster. And he has a chat with the Master and does some work for him as the Master is in charge of the energy, as he believes he runs Bartertown, while he has the highest pitched voice that kind of annoyed me. But I don't get that impression at all, as I believe Entity runs the damn town, and Entity wants Max to fight as he chooses to fight the Blaster for his car that they stole from Max by the traitorous bastard who left Max behind to die. And they fight in the Thunderdome, and Max almost kills the Blaster but spares his life. The most brutal battle as it can be, and this movie is a PG-13 rated movie, which is a sequel to an R-rated series, and I can name a few examples of changing an R-rated series to a PG-13 rating, and they're not for the best, and they are Die Hard, Terminator, and Alien vs. Predator, and out of any of those ones I've seen, this may be the best of the bunch, and it's mediocre at best, and that's honestly not saying much at all, but the fight is what should have been made this an R rating, because as the previous two movies have pretty scary stuff happening, and this looks like a hard level of a PG-13 rating, and that's not always a good thing for an R-rated series like this. Max doesn't kill the Blaster as Entity tells him to kill him, and that wasn't part of the deal they made at one point in the film, which was he'll be free if he wins the fight, but said nothing about killing the Blaster. And Max doesn't have a choice but to face the wheel, and he gets gulag, which is riding a horse backwards while wearing a mask as he takes off. Max dehydrates while feeling betrayed. The Master is also killed by pigs, briefly. Well, he gets, tortured by them, because how small of a person he is, and Entity tells the Master to do what Iron Bar says, while a monkey escapes Bartertown to find Max, who eventually, before he dies, gets rescued by children, while the monkey catches up with Max with some water, and a kid picks them up in the middle of the desert, while the score is melodramatic, and they're led to believe Max is Captain Walker, and this is where it gets problematic, as I was having flashbacks to Return of the Jedi flashbacks with the Ewoks. While Max is surrounded by kids, and this movie is going to have problems at this point on, and the kids cut Max's hair, and he wakes up seeing kids ruling the area, as they're led to believe he's Flight Captain G.L. Walker, and it took me a trip to Google telling me what the hell that's all about, And as they think he can fly them away from Bartertown, as Max hears the story of how he was a great flight captain, and he's not historical, he's made up it for this movie, until he got in a wreck, and I was not connecting with these scenes, which is sad for a series I've really liked thus far, but in my opinion, without having seen Furiosa yet, this is probably the weakest of the Mad Max series as far as I'm concerned. The kids run in the middle of the desert for what reason? To go to an airplane and to make it fly, and Max says he isn't Captain Walker and goes back to their home, and this plot is dense, but other than this one scene, why is part of the title of this movie called Beyond Thunderdome is beyond me. This is a terrible title for this movie. Max shows he's good with a gun and can save their lives while he says stay in their homes and they'll live for a long time, and they refuse to do so as Max punches their leader Screw Loose. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, so forgive me for that. And they leave their home, and one child helps them find them, and they're not on the plane, but they see there are tracks. And Max, with a couple of kids, follow the tracks, and another kid comes behind them and walks with them, while Max finds a few kids along with the monkey, almost going in the quicksand, but Max saves their lives, let me rephrase that, and I'm liking the cinematography when we're outside because it looks fine. Max sneaks them into Bartertown, and they see the master being tortured by pigs, and they go rescue him and knock out some guards in a slapstick kind of way. And this series is better than that, and I can't believe this is the best movie this movie has, as this is embarrassing, but not completely an embarrassment. As I'm liking the movie okay-ish, but the more I see, the less I like it. Entity sees Max is alive, and they drive out to a Bartertown and destroy everything, including Thunderdome. And Entity says they can rebuild Bartertown and find the little man as well as Max, while the kids listen to Captain Walker's teachings of French until the bad guys catch up. And Max and the other heroes go after them, as Max stops every single bad guy going after them, and he appoints Jedediah and his son, remember from earlier in the beginning of the movie, to fly the plane, and everybody gets away except for Max, staying on the ground and sees the kids got away, and Entity lets him go for reasons I don't understand. And the kids arrive at a safe place and tell the story of how Max saved their lives, as Max walks around the desert, and credits roll to another Tina Turner song, We Don't Need Another Hero, playing during the credits. And this climax was fine. It wasn't my favorite of the movies, and I'll explain why I'm with my rating. I'll give this movie a 5.7 out of 10. I do like the cinematography, as the choreography was sometimes funny in a strange way, and I do like following Max, but maybe least good performance by Mel Gibson, as his Australian accent is kind of bad, and Tina Turner is bad in this movie, as she has one great song in it, and it's at the end credits. Excuse me. The score was a little melodramatic, and when we get the kids, I was getting a hell of a lot of a Return of the Jedi flashbacks with the Ewoks, as it could work for children, but it's problematic in general, while the plot was pretty thin, and sometimes preposterous, like it can't happen in a dystopian world, despite this is fiction, and this plot is absolutely dense, and I can't believe this is, out of the other movies in the series, had the only PG-13 rating, and in my opinion, this is the best of an R-rated franchise to change into a PG-13 rating of a movie. And that's not saying much, but it's not the best of the Mad Max series, in my opinion. And this felt a little heavy for a PG-13 rating, and that's not a good thing, as this is a mild recommendation, as this was reminding me of what happened with Star Wars, again, with Return of the Jedi. Wasn't as good as Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back, as they end with the third movie on a little bit of a sour note, but luckily I've got 2 more movies to go in the series. As so far, this is the weakest I remember of this series thus far. So I will be back next time with Mad Max Fury Road. And until then, oh, what a day. What a lovely day.